Beneath the sun-baked cliffs of a forgotten corner of Patagonia lies a fossil bed unlike any other. It's not just the number of bones that draws scientists here, it's the way those bones are arranged. Some are sprawled, some are twisted, and a few look like the animals were trying to climb out of the very earth itself when they died. What happened here? Well, to figure that out, you have to step into one of the strangest chapters in life's history, those moments where death comes not with teeth and claws, but in ways so odd, so utterly baffling, that even seasoned paleontologists can't help but shake their heads. And as I dug into these cases, I realized that while nature has no shortage of brutal deaths, it also has an impressive portfolio of deaths so weird they feel like they were written by a prankster. So today, we're exploring some of the most bizarre deaths ever preserved in stone. And, fair warning, some of them will make you laugh, some might make you squirm, and a few might have you rethinking that camping trip you were planning. Let's start with one that sounds like a bad joke, but is very, very real. The day a herd of prehistoric camels died of sunburn, sort of. In the Middle Miocene around 12 million years ago, parts of what's now Nevada were a sweltering desert broken up by a few shallow lakes. These lakes were lifesavers for thirsty animals except when they weren't. At one site, paleontologists found dozens of camel skeletons, all from the same general layer, all adults in good health before they died. At first, the idea was that drought drove them here, and they drank themselves sick. But the bones told another story. The skulls had a strange pitting pattern, and the lower jaws showed signs of infection. Turns out the water was actually so alkaline that it acted like a chemical burn, literally dissolving the skin inside their mouths. Thirst forced them back for more, and each drink did more damage, until they couldn't eat it all. Imagine dying of thirst while standing in water and you'll get an idea of why this sight gives scientists chills. But chemical soup is just one way to go. Sometimes, the killer is romance, or at least what passes for romance in the animal kingdom. Germany's Messel Pit is famous for exquisitely preserved fossils. So exquisitely preserved you can sometimes see the outlines of fur, feathers, or stomach contents. But in one corner of the site, paleontologists found something unexpected. Dozens of male turtles, all dead, all together, and all in a posture that suggested, well, let's just say they were busy when the end came. Modern relatives of these turtles mate in shallow water, but if the water's too hot or low in oxygen, the act itself can turn lethal. In this case, a sudden release of volcanic gas into the lake likely suffocated them mid-mating, which yes, is both morbid and a little absurd. In the fossil record, love, docent, conquer, all it just leaves you in an awkward pose for the next 48 million years. If that sounds unlucky, wait until you hear about the flying reptile that died because of a tree, not falling from one, literally flying into one. In early Cretaceous Brazil, a pterosaur species with a wingspan of nearly 4 meters was found with something wedged clean through its lower jaw, a sharp, rigid leaf from a plant related to today's yucca. These plants are armed with stiff, needle-like leaves, so tough they can puncture skin and, in this case, they seem to have turned a high-speed flight into a fatal accident. Unable to dislodge the plant's spine from its jaw, the pterosaur would have been unable to feed, slowly starving over days. It is one of those moments where you imagine the fossil scientists staring at the block of stone and saying, there's no way, but the evidence is undeniable. Sometimes, plants fight back. Of course, the plant kingdom isn't always so subtle. In one case, a Cretaceous turtle from North Dakota was found with a tree branch jammed straight through its shell. This wasn't a slow death, it was an instant skewering, part of the chaotic destruction that followed the asteroid impact 66 million years ago. At the Tanis site, where this turtle was found, victims of the impact are frozen in their final moments, fish with molten debris in their gills, dinosaurs buried in mudflows, and in this turtle's case, an airborne branch moving fast enough to punch through bone. Then there are the fossils that don't just show how an animal died, but also what it was doing seconds before. One of the strangest involves two species you wouldn't expect to see together at all: a Jurassic fish and a squid-like creature called a belemnite. In several fossils, the belemnite's hard bullet-shaped internal shell is stuck in the fish's gill region, an arrangement that makes no sense at first. After all, these fish didn't eat belemnites, and belemnites didn't hunt fish their size. The breakthrough came when scientists noticed barnacles growing on the belemnite, suggesting they were already dead and floating when the fish encountered them. The fish, curious or desperate for food, sucked the floating object into its mouth, where it promptly jammed in place. The fish suffocated, the belemnite got a free ride to the afterlife. And we got one of the weirdest 241 fossils ever. Not all bizarre fossil deaths involve other creatures, though. Sometimes, the killer is the Earth itself. In the volcanic badlands of Cappadocia, Turkey, researchers discovered the skull of an extinct rhinoceros that had been roasted literally before being buried. The pattern of cracking and discoloration on the bone suggested temperatures above 400 degrees Celsius, consistent with a pyroclastic surge from a volcanic eruption. The heat would have killed the animal in seconds, and the flow's debris then buried it, leaving the skull as the only intact part. It's rare enough to find a fossil showing signs of burning, but rarer still when that burning happened in a geologic instant. And speaking of rare, here's one that's as close as we'll get to a prehistoric crime scene, the first family site in Ethiopia. Here, the bones of at least 17 Australopithecus afarensis or ancient relatives were found together, all having died around the same time. That's unheard of for early hominins. Theories range from a sudden disease outbreak to a predator attack, with saber-toothed cats and giant hyenas among the suspects. There's even speculation that contaminated food or water killed them all in a short span. Whatever happened, the site freezes an entire social group at one moment in time, a tragedy that, millions of years later, gives us a hauntingly intimate look at their lives and deaths. One of my personal favorites, though, might be the case of the Ice Age giant ground sloths, who managed to poison themselves in the most undignified way possible. In what's now Ecuador, paleontologists found dozens of these four-toon herbivores dead in the same spot, dating to around 20,000 years ago. At first, scientists thought they'd been trapped in tar lake at the Labrie pits. But the sediment told a ruder story. The trap was actually a shallow waterhole they'd been using as a toilet. Over time, so much waste built up that the water became a toxic soup of bacteria and parasites. Forced by drought to drink from the same foul pool, the sloths succumbed one by one not to predators, but to their own bathroom habits. Now, you might think all these examples are freak accidents, and in a way, they are. But they also tell us something about the animals themselves, their behavior, their environment, and their vulnerabilities. A fossil of a turtle with a tree branch through it isn't just a morbid curiosity. It's proof of the incredible forces unleashed by an asteroid. A pterosaur with a leaf in its jaw isn't just a weird death. It's a window into the hazards of its world. Even the fish and belemnite duo says something about how ancient seas worked and how curiosity can be deadly. And the truth is, these cases are probably the tiniest fraction of what's actually happened over Earth's history. For every bizarre death we've found, there are millions more lost to time, washed away, decayed, or buried where no one will ever dig. The fossil record is biased towards certain environments and certain kinds of preservation. That's why so many of our strangest stories come from places like volcanic ash beds, tar pits, or sudden disaster sites. They catch animals in the act, before nature has time to erase the evidence. But even with these limits, what we do find can be stranger than fiction. It's a reminder that life, no matter the era, is subject to randomness, bad luck, and the occasional absurd twist of fate. Whether you're a 4-ton sloth, a flying reptile, or a camel just trying to get a drink, the world has a way of humbling you. So next time you have a bad day, missed the bus, dropped your phone, burned dinner, just remember, at least you not an Ice Age sloth poisoned by your own bathroom, or a Jurassic fish with a squid shell stuck in your throat. Fossils don't just tell us about evolution, they tell us about the endless, unpredictable creativity of death, and that, bizarre as it is, might be the most human thing about them.